On the eve of the global sports festival World Cup 2026, which is about to take place, countless rare events that have never happened in any other World Cup are appearing right before our eyes, highlighting the issue of security leaks and riots erupting at an uncontrollable level. Organizing a global sports festival like World Cup 2026 is an extremely complex issue that requires careful preparation. Yet, right before the opening day, a deeply agonizing problem is taking place. I truly cannot believe my eyes when looking at the images just broadcast from the live television feeds. The lush green grass, where in just a few days we will witness the lightning speed of the top football superstars of the world, is now being trampled by the thousands of footsteps of protesters. A large scale pitch invasion unprecedented in modern football history is happening right at this moment. My feeling right now is sheer shock mixed with immense sorrow. Every newspaper across the globe is simultaneously broadcasting breaking news about this shocking event. Major sports television channels have had to interrupt their daily programs to focus entirely on the earthquake sweeping through the stadiums preparing for the World Cup. We are too accustomed to waiting for a World Cup in joyful anticipation, waiting for beautiful goals, waiting for brilliant celebrations under the crystal lights of the most state-of-the-art stadiums. However, the reality right now is a completely opposite and chaotic picture. Thousands of people from nowhere flooded in to break the most solid security fences. They carry banners and flags, and their echoing chants shake the sky. The security forces seem to be completely passive against the power of the furious crowd. The riot police with shields and batons also helplessly step back before the wave of people pouring onto the pitch. No one could have expected that a massive security force with state-of-the-art equipment could be neutralized so quickly. Layers of barbed wire fences were pushed down and iron gates were bent under the terrible pressure of the endless sea of people. Blaring sirens echo continuously through the corridors, blending with the screams to create an ear-piercing and haunting sound. The beautiful hybrid grass prepared for the multi-billion-dollar tournament is taking a beating under thousands of shoes, not the studded boots of players, but the shoes of outrage. A suffocatingly tense atmosphere envelops every corner of the stadium. This is not a small group of a few dozen people spontaneously rushing onto the field to ask for autographs or take pictures with their idols, as we occasionally see in national championships. This is a massive organized protest aimed straight at the heart of the tournament. Surveillance cameras recorded scenes of the massive doors of the stadium being blown open. The stream of people poured in like a flash flood, sweeping through the stands and VIP areas, breaking all the dividing ribbons to finally crash down onto the sacred grass. The expensive electronic advertising boards running along the touchline have now been smashed to pieces, with electrical sparks crackling in the thick space, smelling of smoke from flares thrown mercilessly. Every meter of beautiful hybrid grass cared for with the most advanced biotechnology in the world for many months is now mercilessly plowed into messy mud puddles. The goal frames, which are inherently the focal point of incredible saves, have now become places to hang fierce protest banners. That chaotic scene makes the heart of any football fan tighten. The whole world is turning its eyes to this event with extreme anxiety. The national teams currently on their way to the host countries or having just landed at the airport are certainly also watching this bulletin in a state of extreme panic. The head coaches of the teams are probably making urgent calls to the organizing committee to ask about the safety of their players. Can the matches take place as planned? Will absolute security be guaranteed for the players and fans? A series of questions are being raised, but there is still no satisfactory answer from the International Football Federation. Let us look back at the match schedule, which was originally meticulously planned down to the minute. The brilliant opening match, with top-tier artistic performances combined with mapping technology, prepared to showcase the cultural power of the three co-hosting nations, United States, Canada, and Mexico, has now been covered by the dark shadow of unprecedented chaos. I know that right now your hearts are also filled with similar questions. We have had to go through a very long journey, waiting for 4 grueling years to relive the atmosphere of eating and sleeping football. Yet right before the ball rolls, this terrible incident strikes a fatal blow to the hopes of billions of fans. Billions of dollars of taxpayers' money and millions of hard-working hours from construction workers, engineers, and event organizers seem to be on the verge of being poured down the drain. Every preparation from the lighting and sound systems to every square meter of grass was completed to the most perfect level, and now they face a pile of ruins after the protest storm. I am narrating these developments to you with a very fast beating heart and a bitter throat, because I am just like you, a passionate football lover who considers the World Cup an indispensable part of life. The pitch invasion today will certainly go down in history as one of the most unforgettable low points of all World Cups. And to understand clearly why the biggest sports festival on the planet could turn into such a chaotic battlefield, we will need to look back a bit at what happened in the past. To fully understand why this ticking time bomb detonated right on the eve of World Cup 2026, we must turn back time and review the glorious yet shadowy pages of history from previous major tournaments. Organizing a World Cup has never been an easy puzzle for any country in the world. It is a massive gamble both economically and politically, where the brilliant halo of football always goes hand in hand with terrible risks. Please join me in looking back at the 2014 World Cup in Brazil, a country dubbed the Holy Land of world football. Back then, the entire planet expected the most passionate and intoxicating football feast amidst endless samba dances. However, behind the brand new stadiums rising into the sky of Rio de Janeiro or Sao Paulo were the angry tears of millions of poor citizens. They took to the streets to protest, blockading streets and burning barricades to object to the government pouring billions of dollars into football while the healthcare and education systems were exhausted. Images of protesters clashing with riot police right outside the stadiums that year became an indelible blur in the football history of Brazil. Success on the pitch with eye-catching matches could not cover up the dismal failure in solving the social welfare problem, causing many billion-dollar stadiums to later be abandoned and turned into decaying parking lots or bus stations. Following that, we witnessed the 2018 World Cup in Russia, a tournament evaluated as a resounding success in terms of organization, but containing many intertwined dark and bright shades. The host country turned this event into a campaign to demonstrate absolute power and perfection down to the smallest detail. Everything ran smoothly like a pre-programmed machine with no room for errors. Magnificent stadiums, free public transportation systems for fans, and dense security forces on every corner created a sense of absolute safety. However, in exchange for that quiet perfection, social dissenting voices were silenced, and all risks of protest were eliminated in the bud by an extremely strict surveillance system. The success of Russia was a success of high discipline and control, a model very difficult to replicate in countries with a more multi-dimensional and open culture regarding civil rights. Fans came to Russia just to watch football and enjoy the joy of victory in the stands, completely unconcerned about what was happening behind the scenes of the political stage. The peak of luxury and controversy must certainly call the name of the 2022 World Cup in Qatar. A small Gulf country threw more than 200 billion United States dollars into this tournament, an unimaginable number in the sports history of humanity. They built architectural wonders in the arid desert, equipped massive air conditioning systems for all outdoor stadiums, and brought an unprecedented luxury experience to the teams and elite fans. The classic final match that year closed a very successful World Cup professionally, breaking countless records for live television viewership. But to obtain that dazzling halo, thousands of lives of migrant workers had to lie down under the scorching heat of the desert during the infrastructure construction process. Waves of boycotts from Europe and fierce criticism of terrible labor conditions constantly chased Qatar from the moment they won the hosting rights until the final whistle blew. Brilliant success on the surface had to be traded for too expensive of a humanitarian price, creating a massive crack in how the world views the true meaning of the global sports festival. Looking further into the past of this year, host countries themselves, the United States once had an extremely successful 1,994 World Cup in terms of commerce and record stadium attendance, while Mexico also left a brilliant mark with the legendary 1,986 tournament. Those dazzling halos in history make the pressure weighing on the North American alliance at the present moment even more suffocating. This is the first time in history that the tournament has been expanded to 48 participating national teams, with the number of matches skyrocketing and spreading across a massive geographical area of the entire North American region. The organizers promised the grandest tournament, bringing in massive revenue and acting as a great symbol of multinational solidarity. But they seemed too intoxicated with the projected massive profit figures and forgot the bloody lessons from the recent past. Behind the glamorous exterior of large megacities are smoldering social conflicts, skyrocketing inflation, and an increasingly cruel wealth gap. Organizing a World Cup with massive security and infrastructure costs, in a context where a large portion of the population has to struggle daily with economic hardships, is nothing like adding fuel to a burning fire, and that fiery outrage finally erupted, escaping all the most sophisticated controls, burning down the most solid security fences to pour straight into the center of the event. The most modern stadiums in the world and North America, which were originally expected to be places to honor the good values of the king of sports, have now reluctantly become a massive stage for the people to unleash their extreme anger. History has brutally proven that the round ball cannot solve deep-rooted social problems on its own, and the brilliant halo of the gold trophy cannot obscure the harsh reality of life. The dismal failure to forecast the situation and prevent the shocking riot today is the inevitable consequence of a long-term pent-up process that was not relieved. We are facing a historical shock, a wound cut too deep into the hearts of millions of true sports fans. Right at this moment, massive questions are surrounding the organizing committee. And in the next part of the bulletin, I will expose the true core reasons and the final drops of water that overflowed the glass leading to this unprecedented protest. My friends, anger is not born naturally, and it does not just erupt overnight. For a riot to have such a massive scale as to collapse the entire most advanced security system of the 2026 World Cup, we must bravely face the cruel truth happening right now. The core reason leading to this historically unprecedented event is the economic strangulation and social injustice pushed to the peak of endurance. While the organizing committee continuously releases extremely glamorous reports about tens of billions of United States dollars in expected revenue, right outside the solid concrete walls of the billion-dollar stadiums, millions of working-class people are struggling every day for their meals. The devastating storm of inflation sweeping through the host countries has pushed living costs to an unprecedented high in many decades. The cost of renting houses in the host cities has skyrocketed unreasonably and cruelly, forcing hundreds of thousands of low-income families to bitterly leave their longtime homes to make way for luxurious entertainment complexes, expensive five-star hotels, and extremely costly exclusive areas for the elite. Poor suburban neighborhoods that used to be a peaceful refuge for laborers have now been mercilessly leveled by excavators, replaced by massive asphalt parking lots smelling heavily of burning tar. This cruel inequality deepens irreversibly day by day. Indigenous people must witness with their own eyes billions of United States dollars of their own blood and sweat tax money being sucked entirely into a sports event from which they will never benefit. Essential public transportation systems are maximally requisitioned to serve international tourists, making the daily commute of poor people a terrifying nightmare. Public hospitals are severely overloaded and schools desperately lack budget, yet the government is ready to spend hundreds of millions of United States dollars just to upgrade massive liquid crystal displays at the stadiums. The pent-up frustration over time turned into a giant ticking time bomb waiting to explode. And the final straw that broke the camel back, the event that directly ignited this towering flame of anger, was a cruel decision made by the government late last night. An additional tax law was passed extremely swiftly, directly targeting daily essential goods to compensate for the massive budget deficit severely depleted during the rush tournament preparations. My friends, the poor now have to bear the burden of paying extra taxes to pay off debts for luxurious sports facilities that they will never have the chance to buy a ticket to enter in their entire lives. That heartless and cruel decision completely severed the final fragile string of patience of the working people. The call to take to the streets to protest immediately spread at the speed of light across all social media platforms without needing any leader to stand up and shout, without any political organization backing them. Hundreds of thousands of people automatically connected closely with each other through a shared, sorrowful pain and extreme despair. They were extremely smart to choose exactly the most sensitive moment, the moment when the rehearsal for the grand opening ceremony was taking place, to deal a fatal blow to the glossy image of the tournament. A key decisive factor that made this attack incredibly successful beyond imagination was the rapid internal collapse of the security forces guarding the outer perimeter of the stadium. Do you know that most of the ticket control staff and outer guards are seasonal laborers, people who are also gritting their teeth enduring the same hardship with extremely cheap wages? When having to face directly with the surging crowd carrying signs demanding practical living rights, these guards uniformly refused orders to use force. They actively lowered their shields, automatically opened wide the solid steel gates, and completely neutralized the most modern security scanning systems. Even hundreds of security personnel decisively took off their reflective vests to blend into the surging sea of angry people. Deep empathy for difficult living conditions shattered all the sophisticated technical defense lines that the organizing committee had painstakingly established at a cost of millions of United States dollars. This live broadcast bulletin is truly a terrifying shock to all true sports lovers across the planet. We excitedly turn on our television screens with a fierce desire to admire magical plays and dedicated fiery goals, not the scene of a desolate riot like a bloody battlefield. However, we absolutely cannot turn a blind eye to cover up this bitter reality. Peak professional sports can never exist independently and completely separated from the violent fluctuations of society. When the sacred round ball is turned into a massive money printing machine serving the greed of the elite, while the livelihoods of millions of people are trampled without mercy, a subversive uprising is an inevitable certainty. The high-tech hybrid pitch has now turned into a fierce political arena where the impoverished and vulnerable must use the violent strength of numbers to raise their final desperate voice. The stark contrast happening right on the field right now truly makes any of us shudder in deep thought. Up high in the stands in the splendid luxury VIP rooms, expensive champagne glasses are being spilled everywhere and elite guests are fleeing in panic under the heavy escort of armed special forces. Down below on the sacred pitch, unemployed workers, mothers with no money to buy milk for their children, and students drowning in debt are cheering loudly, shaking the entire stadium. They furiously throw bright red smoke flares into the coaching cabin area and straight up tear apart the expensive electronic advertising boards of massive multinational corporations. No action movie director could sketch a script so authentic and crazy to this extent. Absolute power right now does not belong to the tournament organizing committee, nor does it belong to the riot police, but entirely belongs to the fiery crowd fully occupying the grass. Any attempt to suppress by military violence at this time will certainly lead to a terribly bloody tragedy, an indelible stain in the history of human civilization. The great round ball preparing to roll has been miserably crushed under the weight of brutal injustice. The whole world is holding its breath, following every smallest development on the pitch with extreme anxiety. National teams are having to barricade themselves in hotels with closed doors, and no one knows where the future of this historic tournament will head. Billions of passionate fans feel as if their hearts are missing a beat. This is no longer just a simple sports bulletin. This is precisely a fierce indictment of the cruel dark side of overly commercialized sports events. The stadium has completely fallen, and the organizing committee is facing the worst nightmare of their lives. They sowed seeds of cruel injustice, and now they must reap the bitter fruit of riots. And the most urgent life or death question raised right now is how to extinguish the massive fire spreading uncontrollably, how to soothe the fiercely bleeding hearts and bring back peace so the tournament can continue. We will work together to find the answer to this fierce life and death puzzle. My friends, standing on the edge of the abyss of the worst disaster in sports history, we cannot just sit idly with folded arms or use extreme repressive measures. Right now, all hotheads must be cooled down immediately. Violence is certainly never the answer. And if the organizing committee or the governments of the host countries decide to use riot police to clear the pitch by force, it will be a permanent end to this tournament. The first and most vital remedy direction tonight is de-escalation from the authorities. There needs to be an urgent order requesting all security forces to retreat from direct confrontation positions, absolutely forbidding the use of tear gas or water cannons to prove a genuine peaceful goodwill. Instead of riot shields and batons, what needs to be brought out right now are megaphones calling for open dialogue. More than ever, football must use its own soft power to save itself. The organizing committee should urgently invite highly influential football legends, those who came from the slums and truly understand the pain of the poor, to act as mediating bridges. When the idols of the public personally step onto the messy grass, not to play but to listen and share with the protesters, it will be a great turning point to soothe the hearts burning with the flame of anger. However, merely soothing words of sentiment are certainly not enough to disperse a crowd being pushed into a corner for their daily bread. To definitively resolve this crisis, the governments of the three host countries must immediately organize an emergency all-night press conference to make strong concessional decisions. The direct fuse of the riot is the cruel additional tax law just passed. Therefore, the mandatory next step must be a declaration to freeze or permanently cancel this unreasonable law. The people need to see in black and white that their voices have been heard and absolutely respected. In addition, an emergency relief fund needs to be established immediately to directly support low-income families heavily affected by the price storm caused by the World Cup. We cannot allow billions of United States dollars to flow into the pockets of giant corporations while local people cannot afford a loaf of bread. This injustice must be officially acknowledged as a mistake in policy planning, and a sincere apology from the heads of the tournament organizing committee will be the most effective painkiller to soothe the frustration accumulated for too long. As for the International Football Federation, this is a life or death moment demanding a radical change in how the massive profits from the tournament are distributed. The organizing committee can not only care about selling television rights at exorbitant prices and pocketing record profits. They must commit to immediately extracting a significant percentage from the massive total revenue of the 2026 World Cup to reinvest directly into the poor communities surrounding the stadiums. That is not a charitable handout, but a fair return for what the local people had to sacrifice. This budget needs to be channeled straight into building social housing projects, upgrading free health clinics, and supporting educational programs for poor children. Football fans globally will be extremely supportive knowing that the money they spend on tickets is not only serving a lavish festival, but also truly saving the lives of millions of destitute fates. Only when economic benefits are shared fairly and transparently can the fire of dissatisfaction be extinguished at its roots. After reaching breakthrough agreements on social welfare, the next puzzle is restoring the facilities destroyed in just a few short days before the opening ceremony. Fortunately, modern sports technology absolutely allows us to do this unthinkable task. Contractors can mobilize teams of engineers working at maximum capacity day and night to dismantle all the plowed up turf and replace it with high-quality hybrid grass rows already nurtured from backup farms. Lighting systems and advertising boards can be reinstalled in record time if there are enough resources. Most importantly, to redeem their mistakes and reconnect with the community, the organizing committee should make the decision to open outdoor public viewing areas completely free of charge for fans. Instead of tightly sealed barriers, let us turn the large squares into real football parties for everyone, regardless of wealth or social class. My friends, crises always carry within them the seeds of opportunity. The shocking event at World Cup 2026 can absolutely become a great catalyst to forever change the way humanity organizes global-scale sports events. Instead of a symbol of heartless glamour, this year's tournament has the potential to transform into a tournament of true tolerance, understanding, and solidarity. The ball will still have to roll, because football inherently belongs to billions of fans. But the upcoming running steps on the green grass will carry a completely different weight, which is the weight of an awakening about human rights and justice. If these remedial directions are applied correctly and drastically, the organizing committee can absolutely turn the tables, transforming a terrible disaster into the most profoundly humane message in history. The fury enveloping the stadiums will eventually subside when trust is rebuilt by concrete actions and not empty promises. Let us all pray for the wisdom of those holding the scales of justice so that this great football festival can return to peace. Our dramatic live broadcast bulletin about the unprecedented event at World Cup 2026 will close right here. Today, we have gone through countless emotional states together. From extreme shock upon seeing the sacred grass trampled by thousands of protesters, to boundless sorrow upon understanding the desperate tears of the poor working people. We have reviewed the bloody lessons of history together, thoroughly analyzing every core reason leading to the uncontrollable outburst of rage today. And finally, we have also found a fragile glimmer of hope shining at the end of the tunnel, with the most profoundly humane and practical solutions to diffuse the tension. Football was born to heal wounds, to bring pure joy, and to illuminate the best aspirations of mankind. Hopefully, after the rain, the sun will shine again, and this shocking incident will become a stern warning, helping the biggest sports festival on the planet truly return to serving the interests of all humanity. I will constantly be on duty at the studio to update you with the hottest developments in the upcoming bulletins. If you find our commentary and analysis profound and providing the most authentic multidimensional perspective, please do not forget to hit the subscribe button, turn on the notification bell, and share this video with everyone so we can closely follow the heartbeat of the round ball together. Goodbye, and see you again in our next bulletins on our sports broadcasting channel.